All right, I think we're live and direct. Welcome everybody to another community conversation. Really excited to have another special guest, Veronica, with us today. To kick us off and get us started, I'm Brandon. Been doing these community conversations for a while now, trying to highlight Black and Brown genius from all facets of life, community, corporate, and everything in between. So. If you're rocking with us for the very first time, welcome. Just grab a cup of tea, kick your feet up, and hopefully you'll learn something. You'll laugh a little bit, and you'll be able to, take a couple of nuggets away from this conversation. So, with that, I'm going to hand it over for some introductory remarks to our special guest, Veronica. We go way back, so I'm really excited to have her for a few minutes here in the conversation. Veronica, tell us, who you are, where you are joining from today, what you're up to and what you work on, maybe a couple fun facts. So take a couple minutes. I'll hand the popcorn over to you.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me. Veronica Obianwa. I am currently based in Bangalore, India. And so I think we have, Brandon, a 13 and a half hour time difference. So you're dealing with really early in the morning, and I'm dealing with the evening in order to make this work. But just really happy to be here. Background about me, Brandon and I went to high school and college together. I grew up in Illinois in the south suburbs in a town called Matson, Illinois, and I went to the University of Illinois. I'm class of 2004. I got my bachelor's degree from Illinois in accounting. Also got my master's degree in accounting from a small school in Illinois called Governor State University. And then from there, joined PwC. So I've been practicing accounting for over almost 20 years, a little under 20 years. I was at PwC for about 14 years, and then I joined Walmart. So I am in Bangalore because I am on assignment with Walmart. I'm on a tour of duty international assignment. And I'm a chief accounting officer for an Indian e-commerce company, Flipkart. So I moved to India in late September 2023. So I've been here just under 4 months. In about a week, it'll be 4 months. So we just, settling in. We've been in our house for about a month and a half and just really enjoying Bangalore and learning about Indian culture, traveling around Asia. So that's a bit about me. I'm married. I have two kids, two boys, an 11-year-old and a 2-year-old. And like I said, I'm a proud alum of Illinois. So just happy to be here.
Awesome, awesome. It's interesting that you might be the very first expat that's been on the other side of a community conversation where we're like 12 hours, 13 hours time difference. We'll definitely ask some questions and get into how that's felt and what that's been like to kind of move out of the United States and move into different culture, different food, different like everything. Maybe some of your, just give me like one or two things that you've been like pleasantly surprised with, or like things that have been, whoa, I wasn't expecting this about Bangalore or about India or about Asia, like more broadly. What are a couple things that have stood out so far?
Yeah, so I would say like the thing that probably met my expectations the most, I was pleasantly surprised, wasn't surprised, but probably exceeded my expectations. So met and exceeded my expectations with the food. I love the food here. I think it's so yummy. And depending on what part of India you're from, they're all very prideful about what part has the best food and best travel. And so the northern Indians feel like they have the better food, and I'm in Bangalore, and which is South India, and I love the food, and so that's been probably like my favorite part of being here. The weather was a surprise. I
Mm.
should have probably did more research. The weather here is like Southern California. So the range of temperature is from 65 to 85 degrees. It's just always quite temperate, nice, not humid, never too cold, never too hot. So really like that too. And then, I didn't realize there's an entire like restaurant scene, bar scene, entertainment scene in Bangalore. 15 years ago, it has this very similar story to Silicon Valley. Bangalore is the Silicon Valley of India. for those who are familiar with it. And so 15 years ago, this area was just like, trees and, woods and, grassland and stuff. And now it's like this booming city with all sorts of e-commerce and tech companies. And my gosh, they have the most, I think this city has the most vehicles on the road. So they have some of the worst traffic I've ever experienced in my life. So that's probably one of the things that did not exceed my expectations. I think it was quite disappointing is how long you can end up in sitting in traffic in Bangalore. It should be illegal. But luckily for us, we've created a little bubble. Like I live 2 or 3 minutes from the Flipkart office. My son's school is 20 minutes away. My other son's daycare is like, 5 minutes away. So we've created like a little bubble where we can avoid the traffic. But the last thing too that was really cool is they have like I believe they have over 35 microbreweries in Bangalore. So they have like all of these great, breweries where they brew their own beers. The local beer here is, in my opinion, is phenomenal. And you can try all of these different places and the ambiance of these places. I mean, the competition is steep. We went to one brewery that has like a waterfall in the middle of it. I was like, okay, they are not playing. One had like a little pond inside. I was already impressed by that. A lot of these places have outdoor seating because the weather is so temperate here. One had a pond in the middle of it. I was impressed by that. But no, they got one up by this other one that had a waterfall, like a live waterfall. I was like, okay, this is ridiculous. So seeing the microbrewery and restaurant scene here is quite intense. Great shopping too. So just good like nightlife, social life, weekend life here as well. So
That's super cool. I mean, it sounds like the kids, when they remember back, when they turn adults, that this will be something that'll be super unique to their experience because, their mom and their dad were expats in another country and they got exposure to different cultures. So maybe the 2-year-old's not articulating it right now.
oh
But
yeah, you probably won't remember, let's be honest. But
yeah,
you
what's the 11-year-old think so far, 4 months into it?
He loves it. Yeah, he loves it. It's like an adventure, At 11, you just want to be with your parents. So it was pretty cool because, I was thinking he might miss his friends and stuff, and he misses them to some extent, but I think he's just really enjoying, the adventure. Everything is different, and I mean, it has stays it's full immersion. So, we can't take, you're not gonna go back and take a break or anything like that. So I'm sure there's days that he's a little bit tired, but overall, I mean, he's in great spirits. He's made friends here. Like he enjoys it big time. So it's good. It's good.
That's awesome. Yeah, many of my friends, I went to U of I for electrical and computer engineering. A lot of my homies were, from the Asian countries, and India was a huge, ethnicity and culture that I was exposed to a lot more in going to school at Illinois. So even to this day, there's several friends from India that I still keep in touch with, and they take their math and their science and their engineering pretty seriously over there. So I'm sure he is tired at the end of.
Oh yeah, I feel like he goes to one of the best schools in Bangalore, and it's a privilege that he gets to go there, and they give him plenty of work, and so I feel like he's just going to be a better student than he was leaving than he was when he came. He'll be a much stronger student, so that's a bonus as well. So yeah.
Let's jump into a little bit of conversation about like how you've made kind of progress post Illinois. We both kind of been working in corporate America for quite some time now, but for the folks who might watch this conversation later, and for the students who are still in college, hopefully working towards a career in the future post graduation, like, what's your journey been like? Like, take us from early, just got out of college, to finish your master's program as well, to like, okay, now I'm working, this is what it feels like. Rewind time back to what was the economy like, what was interviewing like, what did it feel like to actually do that first year or two on the job at the first employer?
Yeah, so one thing if I had to go back and really really assess my, 21-year-old self, 22-year-old self, I would give myself major kudos for really being aggressive about getting an internship.
Mhm.
So before even graduating from Illinois, I started interning with the accounting firm that I actually stayed with after college, after my sophomore year. So I did 3 summer internships with them. Because in accounting you have to get 150 hours to sit for the CPA. So I ended up, doing my master's year. So that sort of ended up having another summer, I guess, an extra summer to intern. So I interned with them for 3 summers. So by the time I graduated, I had already done the interviewing and that sort of thing. I actually did that at 19.
Mhm.
So if I back up to like how I even acquired the internship, which then kind of rolled into a full-time offer, they had, I was actually a part of a program called Inroads, which is still in existence. And so for those who may not know Inroads, it was a corporate program, corporate readiness program, and still is for, students of color, and they kind of connect students with job opportunities, internship opportunities. They also did like workshops to kind of help you prepare for interviews and to also do you help with resume prep, dress, corporate dress, all sorts, just getting you ready for corporate America. Because the reality was like similar to me, no one in most of these kids, they don't have family members who are in corporate. They're the first person in their family to, have a corporate job. So I was one of those people. In my immediate family, my dad was an educator. My mom, she worked for the government before she decided to stay at home, decided to stay at home. And none of my older siblings or anything had like, corporate jobs. And so I was kind of the first one to walk in a corporate office. And so I didn't really have a sense for like, how do you dress, all of that. So Inroads prepared me for my interviews, and you used to have these career fairs as well to match the students with companies. And so I actually got my first internship through this Inroads program, through their career fair. I remember I sat and I did my first interview, and the recruiter, one of the things she said about me is I did come across confident. She was very impressed with kind of like my energy and excitement. Felt like I was very personable. One funny thing I remember her saying is I asked a question, something similar to like, so when will I start? Or something very confident, as if I had a
Yeah.
job. And she was like, okay, wow, you're quite confident that that was quite presumptive. But at the same time, they were impressed. And so I came back for that was kind of a career fair at Inroads, and then they asked you to come into the office. And I remember the first time, they had us come in, they put us up in a nice hotel with a W, Lakeshore at the time, which was a newer hotel back then, quite old. That was actually a pretty new hotel back then. They put us up in the W, and they took us out for dinner, and that was like the nicest hotel I'd ever stayed in my life. It was the nicest office. I had never really been in a corporate office yet. So 19 years old, staying in the W, going to these, I forget what restaurant they took us to, really lavish dinner. I was like, oh my gosh, this is corporate life. I'm sold. I've got to get this job. I've got to get this job. So I went in again, very confident, very professional, just tried to, be myself. And I think that's really has been, a benefit for me is just no matter what situation I'm in, I try to be like authentic and try to be me. I actually feel that if I wasn't myself, that I would fall flat. I probably wouldn't be able to perform as well, whether it be interviews or even just my day-to-day job. Anytime I feel like I have to be something I'm not, that doesn't really set me up for success. So I think early on, being my authentic self was really, really important. But as you move through corporate America, you realize, there's very few people that look like you. People start to kind of say things and do things that make you realize that you're different, and that you may feel that pull to start to be someone different. I think for me, because it was so early on and I was so brand new, I didn't know any better but to be myself. I'm like, this is me. This is who I am. I'm going to be confident. I'm going to be professional. I'm going to be poised, educated. I'm going to come across educated, but I'm still going to be me. And that worked out for me, I think, in all my interview processes, even to this day. So I got that job. I interned several summers, got through my program at Illinois. And then somewhere you were telling me you did something similar where you were working and still getting your degree. I worked at PwC full time, but I was a contractor. And you're going to find this kind of funny, but I was in their global mobility group. And their global mobility group is the group that puts together the international assignments for people. So that was kind of when I got the first bug of, oh, I want to go on an international assignment and work abroad, because I actually was like one of their contractors in their global mobility group all the way back then. So I worked for them while I was getting my master's degree. I graduated my master's degree, and then I converted over to a full-time employee in their audit practice. So then I started practicing accounting full-time from there. Hopefully that answers your question, but if you have any follow-up, feel free to ask.
Yeah, it totally does. And it's funny, we have those full circle moments where, like, I remember first 3 years when I was at Cisco Systems as a software engineer, I would help recruit for this program called the Cisco Sales Associates Program, which was a little bit more on the meet customers, wine and dine them, close deals versus what I was doing, which was like a programmer that put his headphones on and just like coded and tested and did Q.
Yeah.
So I actually ended up doing 3 years as a software engineer and then literally going into the same program that I had helped recruit for, for many, many years before. So yeah, once you get in, you kind of learn stuff and you get the inkling to try stuff and you have the network and like the creds to be able to apply for stuff. And maybe it wasn't part of your plan, but it's all for your good. It turns out the right way if you work hard at it. So that's cool to hear your story and then have it resonate with some of mine as well. And to your point about inroads, the lady's name just popped back into my head, Kelly Cattenhead. If you watch this video, I was like 18 years old. Like she was my like inroads mentor back in the day. And I ended up tearing my ACL after I graduated high school, so I couldn't do an internship. But the prep that you talked about, how to dress, how to put a resume together, how to come across professional and confident are things that I still stand on today. So Kelly, thank you wherever you are in the world. And to the point about accounting, I've got an accountant mom who's been CPA for 40 something years. So she'll watch this and probably be proud of you, Veronica, and proud of this conversation as well. So
Yeah, thank your mom for paving the way for me. I appreciate her. I do. Black female accountant. I
yeah,
appreciate her.
she's also Illinois. So we're keeping it all in the family. um, So maybe talk a little bit about like the actual job of accounting and like what it is. We've talked to engineers in community conversations, product designers, like business people of all kinds, but for folks that don't understand, like what does a controller do? Like what's a accountant or a finance professional like actually tactically doing from 9 o'clock to 5 o'clock? Give some examples of like what they might find you up to in any given week.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of what I do is kind of helping leaders understand the financial impacts of the decisions they're making. At its core, a controller is the officer, the leader of a company that's responsible for kind of like the financial reporting of the company, and the way that the books are kept. And so that role, you're effectively saying, this is how the company performed. This is the revenue they've earned. This is, the expenses they've incurred. This is what the profit is going to be. Here's what the company's financial position looks like. And so based on that information, a lot of leaders, depending on, who the stakeholders are, but usually companies have boards, they have investors, they have shareholders, various stakeholders that want to see the numbers of the company to assess the financial health of the company, to decide if they want to invest more, invest less, if they're getting a return on their investment, et cetera. So from a 9 to 5 perspective, depending on the point in the year or in the month or in a quarter, I have responsibilities to make sure the company is reporting out their numbers for a period. So maybe for a year or a quarter or a month. we spend time compiling, closing the books is what we call it, and then compiling the numbers that state the financial position and the statement of operations, statement of activity for the company. And then day to day, as the company, leaders are making decisions, they'll usually want to know, okay, this is how much money I think I'll make. Does that make sense to you? If I enter in this type of arrangement, what does that look like from a financial impact for me or for the company? And a lot of times a leader may have in their mind high level what they think the financial impact will be. But usually the accounting rules also stipulate certain things that create adjustments or just movement around the financials that may project a different answer than the leader may be expecting. Accounting is really the language of business. So I view my job as like an interpreter, right? When you think about someone speaking one language and you help translate it to the language that the audience will understand. I feel like that's what accountants do. They just basically are helping business leaders and stakeholders understand how the business is performing in a financial way, and helping them interpret the finances of the business based on the numbers on that piece of paper. So hopefully that gives some perspective, but I would say depending on your level and years of experience, you could be doing anything from actually booking journal entries into the ledger to reviewing financial statements and giving presentations on, the financial position of the company, to leaders and board members and investors. So it just kind of depends. I think a controller is usually the person that's reviewing the financial statements, doing lots of reviews of the ledger and account reconciliations, and then going to other leaders and telling them, this is where we landed, this is what this means, etc. So
Super cool. To kind of where you are today, would like 7, 8, 9-year-old Veronica be surprised that you ended up as an accountant, or would you say that there are certain things about you, even as an early child, where you're like, it kind of makes sense that I'm doing kind of this right now. I always love numbers, or I always love business. Like, give us a before and after.
I think 7, 8-year-old Veronica would be shocked that I'm an accountant or I'm a controller. One, I'd be like, what is a controller? Just like everybody else on the planet. But then I think also I'd be like, oh, that seems kind of nerdy. And I think some of that is not just because of like what I was probably interested in at the time or my influences, but it was also like my exposure, what I was exposed to at that time. I didn't know any accountants, you know what I mean? Even to this day, besides people that I work with and have networked with after college and things like that, my closest friends that I went to high school, a few from college are accountants, but like the people that I grew up with and the people in my family, they aren't accountants. And I don't think I have any accountants in my family. You say your mom is an accountant. I don't even think I have like aunts, uncles, cousins who are accountants. Like, I think I'm the only accountant in my family. So it's not something I was even exposed to think that I would do it. And then I think there's a perception of accountants as like, bean counters, pencil pushers, like you're in a corner just like doing math. I hated math. Hated math. So that's another reason why I would not have thought that I would be an accountant, because once you would have described it to me, I would have thought it's a whole bunch of math, right? But interestingly enough, when I was in high school, I started like kind of getting a sense that I would want to be more corporate, but I also wasn't sure. I thought maybe when I was in like primary school, I admired my teachers, so I thought I wanted to be a teacher. My dad was a teacher, so I actually thought I was going to probably end up being a teacher. But then when I got into high school, I started taking economics. And even though economics didn't resonate with me, there was something about the ecosystem that was interesting. Like something about it lit something up inside of me. I could tell. I was like, this particular topic isn't it, but something about the ecosystem of business is intriguing. So luckily my senior year, I took an accounting class in high school. And I don't know what it was. It immediately clicked for me. It just, the way accounting works, my brain worked, it just was a perfect marriage. And it came very naturally, very easy. And I think what I liked about it wasn't as much of math as it was problem solving. Accounting is an allocation science. So you have a problem and you're like, where do you put these things? And I don't know that I remember being like, I like puzzles and stuff like that, but I guess I like solving problems. So in my mind, because it was an allocation science, it was like, oh, okay. I mean, you do a little bit of arithmetic, but really it's like analysis. Like I have to truly understand like the objective behind a transaction. It's not just like, how much did this cost? It's like, why did this happen?
Mhm.
And what does this represent, kind of thing. And I think that's why I'm a strong accountant, because I'm never just like looking at like the numbers and like where it goes. I'm really trying to like deeply understand like, why did the company do this? What were they trying to accomplish? So if this is what they were trying to accomplish, when I look at the financial statements, does it tell that story?
Mhm.
Like that's how I know something's wrong or right, because I'm like, no, but that's not the intention of that action. So does it make sense that the numbers are reflecting that? So that analytical part, that problem solving part, is what drove me to accounting. But it was literally my senior year in high school that I was like, oh, okay, I'll do this. And then I again, 18, 19-year-old me, I look back and I'm shocked how well I, no, seriously, I'm like, how did I know that the accounting would be the thing? I mean, when you're, that's a lot of pressure to put on a 17, 18-year-old, like, okay, pick the thing you think you're going to want to do with your life.
Yeah.
Like, what do you know at 17, 18, right? You're doing the best that you can. But then you wake up 20 years later and you're still doing it. I mean, some people still do things that they do because they like, this is what I picked, this is what I know, I'm gonna stick with it. And I think to your earlier point, it's like, you know, you don't want to have tunnel vision, you want to be open to the possibilities, right? So if you find yourself picking something and then down the road it doesn't work, you should definitely be open to the possibility of pivoting. But I've been blessed that I actually still like it. It's crazy. Like I'm like, wow, I still like this. So I actually chose right for me. And so I'm really proud of my 17, 18-year-old self for making the right choice for me. I'm impressed.
Yeah.
So
And accounting, like from what I know from my mom and other a few accountants, it stays mostly in the same vein. There's not like as much like bleeding edge innovation in accounting, so that you have to like drop everything that you learned in school and like pick up and learn something brand new. So I do like that it's like a stable um slow progressions and slow, like when the laws change, you have to obviously absorb the new legislation and policy and stuff like that. And I worked with crypto startups for the last 2 or 3 years at work before I just pivoted to AI. And my mom was always telling me what to do, and like the implications of buying and selling crypto on my tax returns is like, hey, don't make more work for me or for you than you like actually want, because this is the new stuff, and depending on where in the world you are, like different countries have different kind of policies on this stuff. So um, yeah, maybe a question about kind of what's some of the newer things that you're excited to learn or to work on or put your hands to, or that you see businesses doing that have like accounting and like tax implications.
yeah, so I would say like for my organization, we, you know, we have the opportunity to upgrade some of our accounting systems. We did it at Walmart too. And so just, you know, when we think about how we account, we actually perform accounting entries and things like that. The one thing you kind of, the point you kind of made is the accounting rules, they can change, but not drastically. And you kind of always need accounting. It's not gonna be like an obsolete thing to follow accounting rules, right? There, you don't have a lot of obsolescence threat, I think, from an accounting industry perspective. But what you do have is like the way you perform like the actual accounting entries, and like that automation is there, and that's pretty exciting. So there's always like faster ways. There, you know, you want to centralize, standardize, automate things. And so I think when you think about accounting 30, 40 years ago, a lot of things may have been done by hand or in Excel, or then that, you know, or QuickBooks and some and really simplistic accounting systems. But I think a lot of times the controller has the responsibility of saying, okay, what's the best and fastest way for me to keep the accounting records of this company? And obviously the larger the company, the more, you know, onerous it can be. The number of transactions can be in the millions, billions, et cetera. So you want to make sure there's automation there, that you're trying to eliminate as many manual processes as you can. So in my role at Flipkart, I'm really focused on, okay, I want to make sure this company is using the best accounting applications, that we're eliminating manual processes when we can, and standardizing, centralizing, and automating the processes that we do have. One of the like foundational concepts in accounting is consistency. And a lot of times when you do something manual, you can't guarantee the consistency because of human error, right? So the more that you can automate things, the more you can drive consistency. So we try to do things where we're using bots to try to, do different types of analyses and valuations and things like that. We try to, use various automated process workflows where we can. I know Alteryx has been something that I've used in the past in my public accounting life at PwC and also at Walmart. The use of dashboards to report out on different accounting analytics is something that's, really an area of focus as well. So I think that's the thing. Those are the things that excite me when my team can really come to me and say, hey, we're able to monitor this because we've created this dashboard that helps us kind of identify anomalies that we're seeing in our journal entries and numbers and account balances, et cetera. That is the type of kind of innovation that I think from an accounting perspective, you want to see lots of automated interfaces because a lot of the applications, you have front-end applications that accompany that then have to interact with back-end applications. And you want to make sure that those interfaces are complete and accurate and smooth. And then from there, once you're able to populate the financial statements, that you don't have any breakdowns in terms of how the numbers flow, and that you don't have a lot of manual intervention, right? You don't want it to be a situation where like, oh, these numbers flow through, but I have to fix this and this and this and this and this, because every time you have to kind of manually intervene, you're risking the accuracy and completeness of the information that's being used. So I would say like for my org, we're doing enterprise reporting platform upgrade, ERP upgrade. We're also going through and doing our business process re-engineering. So we have consultants coming in, looking at our as-is processes, and then kind of like to be like, how could this be better? Where are there gaps in the processes, and where can we automate in those processes through bots and dashboards and all sorts of things. And then we have an interface project where we're making sure like a lot of the applications are interfacing on, automatically without issue. So that's probably transformation, finance transformation. You'll hear a lot of accounting and finance leaders talk about finance transformation. That's really what they're talking about. They're talking about like the way we do our job, and what applications we're using and how much we're trying to remove some of that manual intervention from the work we do every day.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that not just within finance, but like everybody's like reevaluating kind of what they do right now in the wake of all of this AI proliferation of tools and things that promise like more productivity per person and for teams and stuff like that. Um, and like my students, they play around with the tools, and just this year was the first year that we as faculty had like an AI policy to say, hey, you know, we know it's easy for you to say into ChatGPT or some AI tool, like, go give me the answer
Yeah.
to this thing, and then you turn it in as like your homework answer. But
Oh man.
really, like the policy that we crafted was like, go use these tools and report back on the pros and cons of what you see. Give me the actual prompts that you used and the actual outputs that came back, and give me a sense of whether this was helpful and additive to you as a student and a researcher and like a functional expert, or whether this cost you more time versus saved you more time. So I have the kind of stance that the genie's out of the bottle. Like there's no putting putting this back in.
Yeah.
So is any of that bleeding into the world of like your world of finance and accountancy right now?
100%. I would say, like from a financial maturity perspective, Walmart is farther along than Flipkart. Flipkart is a 15-year-old company, and so at Walmart, while we're talking about Chat GPT at Flipkart, it's probably more in the tech space. In the finance space, I don't think we're quite there yet. But in Walmart, we were definitely already there. And you're very much, your genie in a bottle or out of the bottle type analogy is spot on. And I think we just have to embrace that. And I think when one of the things that was really interesting as we were starting to train up on Chat GPT and other forms of generative AI, was that, it's almost like I like the analogy of how it's like kind of like when you're like talking to your kid. You put information in there and you ask it questions and then it comes back with answers, and you have to be careful because you have to kind of know what the answer should be. Because it's really easy for it to pull from different sources and maybe misinterpret the information or have incomplete information and not give you quite the right answer. And it reminded when they were kind of talking about and showing us ways that you can like try to like put in questions to get answers and how you get the answer. And it's like you can understand how it came to that answer, but it's not quite right. It reminded me of conversations I have with my 11-year-old where he will tell me, it's exactly like a conversation with him where he will tell me something that is it's so logical to him. And
Yeah.
I'm like, I understand like why you just said what you said, but it's not quite right. And a lot of it is like I don't know if it's years of experience or just life experience is limited at that age. So he's trying to put two and two together. So it makes sense to him. I'm like, that's not quite right, son. And I think it's the same thing with ChatGPT. So I think the biggest risk we have is like, from an accounting perspective, there's lots of opportunities. We could take like all of like the accounting standards, train, like your AI, your generative AI to like process all that information, the library of the accounting standards. So then that way, even when you're doing like technical analysis, you can kind of get it to help you write technical accounting memos to come to the right accounting answer, etc. But you still have to know the answer because it could spit out the wrong answer for you, or you still have to be able to triangulate all the different data points and not just like take what it gives you. And I think it's going to take years of just processing the data for us to be able to completely rely upon it anyway. The biggest risk we have is that it's just not going to give us quite the right conclusion. And you have people working in it that they themselves don't know, the right conclusion. So I think there's opportunity to save time. Like I know I have, if colleagues are like, they record meeting minutes, they have the AI like record the meeting and then summarize the key points of the meeting for them. So note taking and all of that is like, cut out. I think there's small ways and big ways that technology can really benefit us in accounting and finance. But like you said, it's just kind of still the Wild West, the final frontier, whatever you want to call it, this unexplored territory that we just have to embrace and evolve with.
Yeah, that's a great analogy of like how 11 or 12-year-old will like certainly tell you something and you could just be like, I see it, but that's wrong. And let me show
Not
you.
quite right. It's not
Yeah,
quite right.
that's an excellent parallel to like some of the hallucinations that you might get from some of the prompts that you put in. So I'll definitely like reuse that in future conversations. Um, let's take a little bit of a break for like a lightning round that has like nothing to do with work or any of your functional expertise. You mentioned like traveling, you mentioned food, like in let's go into hobbies as well. So like travels, what are some of maybe like top 2 or 3 places that you either have been and that you would want to go back to, or like the ones that are like on the bucket list, never explored there yet and excited to go to?
Oh man, I love travel. It's like you don't even know how excited I am because I just is like my passion right now. And us living in Asia, like we didn't even visit Asia before we moved here, but we've always wanted to. So far away, so it's hard to travel here, especially with kids. So
Right.
living here, a whole bucket list. So I would say the bucket list item we had on our like top of it was Maldives. So we'll be heading there in April because it's only 2.5 hours away from Bangalore. So that's like a weekend trip. So we're gonna go to the Maldives in April, go for a week during my son's spring break. They don't call it that here, but it's like their spring break. The second one that was on the bucket list was Singapore, and we went to Singapore over the New Year. That was phenomenal. Just Singapore did not disappoint, and I'm telling you, it rained a little bit every day. We were in Singapore, did not matter. That place is magical. So I would definitely go back. Oh gosh, I'm so impressed. And then the third place is Mauritius. But
Mhm.
I've been to Mauritius. So Mauritius is a small island country off the coast of East Africa, off the coast of Madagascar, for those who haven't heard of it or don't know where it is. But like, it's not far from here either. But I had already been there. I lived. This is my second expat assignment, as I mentioned to you before, Brandon. But I lived in West Africa for 2 years earlier in my career. Probably 3 years after I finished college, I got to live in West Africa, Nigeria, for 2 years with the firm I was working for, PwC at the time. And so after I had finished that tour, I got to go to Ghana while I was on tour in Nigeria. But then after that, I took I worked for a few years with the firm, took a hiatus. And two of the places I wanted to go were South Africa and Mauritius. So while they called it a 1 month sabbatical as a part of the rewards program. I think they still have it. I spent my whole 1 month, 4 week sabbatical in Africa. I spent 2 weeks in Nigeria, 1 week in South Africa, in Cape Town, Johannesburg, and then 1 week in Mauritius. Mauritius is a really amazing place. It's a, dormant, inactive volcano. The whole island's an inactive volcano, and it's just the most beautiful thing ever. So I would say Singapore, Maldives, Mauritius, probably top three. And they're all like super far away from the US,
Yeah.
but they're totally worth the trip. They're amazing places.
Yeah, and I'd love to. I mean, the hawker centers in Singapore and like
Oh
the
yeah.
I was almost going to move there for the job that I was doing a couple years ago, and it didn't work out like post COVID, but definitely share your your love for that part of the world and that place. A little crowded over the last, 10, 15 years. There's been a lot of people to migrate into that little island, but man, I couldn't agree with you more. For anybody like watching this that's trying to put a bucket list together, yeah, definitely put Singapore on the list.
Please put Singapore on there. Phenomenal. Yeah.
Let's move to let's see, maybe books that you read or would recommend people who are like in college take a look at, or podcasts that they could listen to in order to like prepare themselves for career. Or we could pivot over to like hobbies that you have outside of the travel. Which one?
It's funny. A friend of mine, her older brother he was just starting out in corporate America when I was in college and I was studying accounting. And he gave me this book, and I'm pretty sure this was a long time ago. So I mean, I probably should go back and check this, but I'm pretty sure it was this book called Career Warfare that I read. But I remember it was a book that was really focused on personal branding. And I feel like back when I was in college, they started talking about personal brand. That was like a really big thing. And I don't know if it's like an outdated concept now, but like I strongly feel like you have to go into the corporate environment kind of knowing how you want others to perceive you. I think it's just really important to like decide what your brand is going to be. I think that a lot of people make the mistake of thinking someone else is going to dictate what their brand is. And I would say no, your brand is yours to like own. How people perceive you, it may, you may not be able to fully control that, but like what you want to project, you can control what you project, right? And so I remember starting out my career, what my brand was, starting out is different from my brand now. And what I mean by that is what I wanted people to know me for, what I wanted to be known for, then is a little bit different from what I want to be known for now. So back then, I knew that I wanted to be someone that people could count on. It was very simple. I wanted my bosses to know, like, you can count on Veronica. She's gonna get it done. She's not gonna let you down. Whatever you give me, I got it.
Mhm.
You can rely on me. That was it. That simple just premise in my brain framed up how I did my work for probably the first 6 to 8 years of my career. I wanted to be the person, the go-to. Now I think my brand is I want to be a transformative leader. So my brand now is really heavy on being a transformative, inclusive leader. I should include inclusive there. That's really important to me. And so everything I do now is more about like, how do I lead teams? How am I a leader for everyone?
Mhm.
And how am I like pushing the envelope and relentless and continuous improvement in doing things better. We're not resting on our laurels. We're always trying to be cutting edge. So my, like for instance, my vision for Flipkart, my Flipkart controllership team is to be the best controllership team in India. So I project this, I say this, I put it on slides to my team all the time. So the book, I believe it was called Career Warfare, but either way, I would say personal branding, finding a book early on in your career. I feel like you can find a book on networking or personal branding. I think you're gonna be set.
Yeah,
That's the things I think early on in your career you should really, really be focused on networking and personal branding.
I looked it up while you were speaking, and the subtitle of it is 10 Rules for Building a Successful Personal Brand and
That's gotta
Fighting
be it.
to Keep It.
Do you
uh,
know how proud I am that I remember the name of that book? Because I literally read that book probably right out of college, and I guess I said what
came
year I
out
read.
in 2003. So like it literally came out like right around the time when you needed to read it as you were like getting ready for warfare and getting ready to go to school and finish it up. So yeah, I hadn't heard of it until now. So I'm gonna put this on my list to read as well or listen to on Audible. But yeah, Career Warfare by David D. De La Sandro, looks like. So for folks out there interested, feel free to go check it out. Um, I think we got like a couple more minutes before we do the wrap, but like we talked about so much, like from kind of early days and little Veronica being potentially surprised at what big Veronica's doing right now to kind of international flair and flavor of kind of your current assignment, a little bit about parenthood and kind of balancing kind of the demands and the tension of both and a little bit of, personal hobbies as well. Um, so give me like one or two things that you would kind of give again, 18, 19, 18, 19, 20-year-old Veronica, like keep doing this, or to that student that's in that same age category or getting ready to branch out and try to find their first opportunity in a little bit of a different economy, right? It's different today than it was back then, but
Yeah.
one or two little nuggets to seal our conversation before we wrap it up.
Yeah. Um, Probably one thing I would tell myself to keep doing is keep being your authentic self. Um, that there may be times that you feel like um you don't fit in, you may be feeling pressure to be something different or someone different, but just be your authentic self. You be a better version of yourself every day, but still be yourself.
Mhm.
um the thing that I probably would have told myself to stop doing was thinking about the next thing.
Mm.
uh be good, be the best, be amazing at the thing you're doing today, and the next thing will come. That's something that I learned later on. Like, luckily, I learned later on in my career, but I do remember in the beginning, I was always worried about the next level, the next, promotion, the next goal. That I don't know that I was like fully focused on what I was doing at that moment in time. And I think obviously the disadvantage is maybe I didn't always give my best work because I was not as focused as I could have been. Didn't do bad or anything, probably actually did pretty well by anyone's standards, but I could have been even amazing had I just focused on what I was doing that day, and whatever was coming next would have come anyway, right? Um, and I think the second thing that I probably like, the other disadvantage, like I don't know that I enjoyed it as much as I could have too, because I was always focused on the next thing, you know what I mean? So in the beginning, that was my thing. I was always really focused on the next thing. And if I could go back and tell myself to stop doing something, I'd say stop focusing on the next thing. Do your current job, current role, current assignment, current project really, really well. Just focus on that, and the next thing will come. Those are probably the two pieces of advice I would give myself.
Yeah, that's gold. think that speaks to like being present too. A lot of us are distracted by screen over here. What am I gonna eat later on? Like it not focused as human beings, just generally speaking. And I think
Yes.
have a lot more
Yeah.
richer conversations, a lot more richer experiences, a little bit more gratitude if we like stop to celebrate kind of
Yes.
the blessings that we wake up and have every day. And especially through COVID, coming out of the backside of this, still alive, can still kind of operate,
Yes.
have my faculties, like in the grand scheme of things, even if you're viewing this and don't have like a cushy corporate America job, like you're blessed. Like a lot of people in different parts of the world would literally do so much just to have the stuff that we take for granted or don't think about, on a day-to-day basis. So um,
Preach.
that's well said on your side.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, I'll take this time just to say, much appreciated to be able to be 13 and a half hours separated and for you to carve out an hour to talk to me and to kind of reconnect with myself and to share this conversation with our community of students and other people that'll look at this. Just bless you for that. Hope your family continues to prosper and learn and be able to just get the most out of your experience being overseas. And um, yeah, we want to give people their flowers while they're still alive and just say that we're always rooting for you and hoping that many, many more Veronicas are seeded and planted and will grow in some small part by virtue of this conversation and people kind of looking at what we talked about and what we shared and exposed today. So thank you, thank you from our community and from me to you. Great to reconnect, and I'm looking forward to all of the stuff that you've got in front of you, even though you've accomplished so much.
Thank you so much, Brandon. Thank you for having me. And thank you for creating this platform. You're doing great work by doing this. Thank you for including me and thank you for doing it in the first place.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Well, everybody, we appreciate your time and attention. Veronica, what's the best way for people who want to connect with you, like post this video to find you? I know your LinkedIn probably has a bunch of messages in it. I don't know if you do Twitter and like all that other stuff, but tell
I was
people where to find you.
My friends make fun of me because LinkedIn is my social media platform of choice. I truly am the dork that I despise at 8 years old. So LinkedIn is where it's at for me. I do a pretty good job of responding to LinkedIn messages. So reach out on LinkedIn.
Cool, cool. All right. Well, thank you again. Enjoy the rest of the day. And then for everybody watching, we will see y'all next time. Be safe, drink water, mind your business, and we'll keep it moving. All right. See y'all.